more of an artificial discussion to talk about, we had this, we used to have that, we have that.
Yeah.
We're still going to talk about what we need, and as a growing community, we're going to be adding staff in targeted areas. There's no doubt of that, but
Just don't
we're going
talk
to refer
about what
less
we
to the
used to
way
have.
we used to be staffed, because organizationally, we've changed. And that's what this budget will reflect more.
Okay.
And we're doing our best to give you the first 18 opportunities to do that.
They really are.
You're very kind, Todd.
So a few of our other program enhancement forums. One is our live fire training prop overhaul. I'm sure that most of you have been to our training center now and seen our live gas-fired props that we use for the training of our personnel. And as we said earlier, our people are really our greatest asset. And so in order to keep them proficient in their firefighting tactics, our equipment has gotten to the point, most of it's 10 years old, and the technology has changed so drastically that we can't get parts anymore to continue it in the operation that it needs for the safe operation of the equipment. So just to remind the board, each one of these props, we have 2 of them, each one of them cost $250,000 when we initially purchased them, and that was done out of the facilities tax fund. So now that we're about 10 years into it, it's become necessary for us to do a complete overhaul of the software and the hardware components that actually operate this equipment. And so you see a request out of the general fund of $130,000 in order to do that. That will give us another 2 years of warranty on all of the equipment, which is certainly going to offset some of that cost in the maintenance that we currently experience. But the other thing that I want to highlight about these props and how valuable they are to us, we have 12 new people, for instance, that will be starting in April for Fire Station 8. If we didn't have these props in operation, we would have to send them to the State Fire School to receive their basic training at a cost of $32,000 for those 12 people. So, and when we hire for Station 7, that would be another $32,000. So we're already $64,000 of this $130,000 equipment that's going to last us at least 10 more years. So we think it's very well worth our investment to continue using it, not to mention the fact that we are able to continue training our people at the highest level possible on a daily basis and not just having to work other people into the State Fire School for this type of training.
Is that in-house training by you guys? You all have the expertise?
Yes, ma'am.
At this level to do what they will get in Nashville?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we believe that we have a better
Thank you.
program. And not only do we have a better program, we have other communities that send their personnel to us as opposed to the State Fire School to receive this level of training.
And they pay for it.
Yes,
So they can offset some of the 130?
it does. It's not a great deal of cost, but it does, they do provide a cost into that. Yes, sir.
Right answer, good.
Who does that? Andy, do you do that training? No, sir. Did you used to do it? Yes. Okay.
He know about it.
Todd, I believe you could sell ice to an Eskimo.
Well, thank you very much.
That's actually the next budget report.
Do you know any Eskimos? I'm running a little short on cash.
Sense of humor.
Our training center addition, if you look at the bottom middle picture, you'll see an illustration of what our training center presently looks like. We are asking in this budget year to do an enhancement to that facility by looking at the picture on the far right that shows the structure between those 2 buildings. It is a second floor addition that we want to add to tie the 2 buildings together. And the reason that we want to do this is to expand our training efforts to go into more technical areas that we're not presently able to do on site and we have to typically do elsewhere. For instance, this particular addition would have a hole in the floor that would give us the ability to push multiple props underneath it, such as confined space rescue or high-angle rescue or some other technical rescue that presently we can't do elsewhere. And so this is, because it's an increase in the services that we would be providing, it falls within the facilities tax budget, so it's at $140,000. I may can sell ice to an Eskimo, but I'm
Okay,
having
operate.
trouble working the basic remote. So the last 2 program enhancements that I'll highlight, unless you have questions about other, is our self-contained breathing apparatus. This is a general fund expenditure, And it's presently listed at $510,000, which is a huge amount for the board to look at. I want to explain a little bit about this process and where we are and why we're bringing it forward to you at this time, but also to let you know up front that we are looking at alternatives for this particular expenditure, such as potentially dividing it over 2 budget periods instead of 1 full budget period. But our SCBA's, they're the devices that the firefighters wear on their back, and they are their #1 protection when they're going in to fight a fire. And so it's dangerous for us to have a mismatch of air packs throughout the department, so that one day you come in, you wear this particular air pack, and another day you come in wearing another air pack. It also, we have to be tested to our face piece. Our face pieces have to be tested to ensure they have a adequate seal so that no products of combustion get in and cause us breathing problems and all the complications that can come from that. And so when we have to replace these devices, it becomes necessary for us to do it all at one time. And we have, we're almost 2 years now into the revision cycle of the NFPA standards that dictate how these particular devices will be built. So we get on average about 10 years of life out of the SCBA's before it's time to buy new. And so we're at a point right now where, because we're adding Fire Station 7 and because we're adding Fire Station 8, we're going to have a need within the next year to purchase about another $100,000 worth of SCBA equipment. But when we do this major changeover, if we wait for a couple of more years to do this major changeover, then that $100,000 of brand new equipment goes on the auction block, and we're seeing pennies on the dollar for that. So we're asking ourselves, does it make sense now to spend $100,000 only to have to turn around and auction that off and still spend $510,000? Or do we look at potentially making that investment now, and because we know that there's no projected stations on the board for the next 10 years, at least as we know for now, that we wouldn't have to make another purchase for another 10 years, and we potentially save $100,000 of money. So we're looking at not only splitting it potentially between 2 budget years, we're certainly looking at lease opportunities that may be available for us and other things to help reduce this cost and its impact on the budget. But we felt it important to get it out in front of the board for you to see and understand that that expense is coming. It's a matter of whether it's this year, next year, or early in the following year. And then the last one is our technical rescue equipment. In this present budget year, the fire department has a technical rescue vehicle that is currently being spec'd and will be ordered, actually bid and ordered before too much longer. And it provides our ability to respond to certain types of disasters that may affect our community. And if you look in the bottom left corner, for instance, you see a picture of a tornado event that comes through. And I'm sure you've seen many pictures of what tornadoes leave behind. And those buildings are often unstable. And when they're unstable, oftentimes people can be trapped inside of those buildings. And so our people must be able to go in and shore up those structures before they go in and search for and rescue people that may be affected in that area. And certainly our tornado potential continues to increase in the south. And so we have been sending people for 2 years now through training with Metro Nashville, and we have spec'd equipment that is FEMA certified. And we are working with Task Force 2 and other divisions to enhance our abilities not only to be self-supportive, but also to support others in their time of need. And so this particular request asks for funding for $130,000 worth of new specialized technical rescue equipment to enable us to be able to hopefully respond to the needs of our community when disasters strike. And finally, in summary, our base budget is $14,833,000. Program enhancements between both the general and the facilities tax fund total $3,083,000 for a total of $17,916,000. Of course, we want the board of mayor and aldermen, both past and present, to always know that we appreciate your support. You have been gracious to us, and it does not go unnoticed, and we're very thankful for that. We'll entertain any questions that you have or leave you to the next group.
Are you finding yourself having to go to the freeways a lot to do more stuff as a fire department because of bridges going?
Well, freeway accidents occur almost every day. So it's not uncommon for us to be on the freeway 3 or 4 times a day responding to accidents that occur. Yes, ma'am.
That's a combination of fire and medical. that you're?
Yes, ma'am. Mostly we see car accidents on the interstate as opposed to medical emergencies. We do have a few of those, but most of them are generated from car accidents.
And I would say that most of those car accidents that happen require the response of 3 or 4 different apparatus.
Yeah.
So
And
you got,
police.
yeah,
Speaking of,
Exactly.
thank
very
you.
good.
Quite a
Thank you.
presentation, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Andy,
And the next item on the agenda is the budget presentation from the police department. Hello.
Nice uniforms. I feel safe already.
Well, I feel pretty safe 24/7. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
you're up.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Of course, we are the police department. And I'd like to take sort of a personal point of privilege, if you don't mind, and say how honored and privileged I am to be your chief of police. And I've only been here less than 8 months now. It seems like a couple of years, but but it's been all good. And not only am I a citizen of Franklin, but it's been my privilege and again my honor to be a member of this police department, and today to represent the men and women of the police department and to serve this city. It's a good job, and I'm thankful for it every day. I'd like to introduce my staff that I have here with me today. Deputy Chief Policastro, Greg Policastro is here with me. He's over CID and Support Services, Communications, and 911 Center. And I have a new guy back in town, Deputy Chief Chris Gentry, who is over the uniforms, the patrol and special operations and traffic. And then I also have with me at the end of the table Lieutenant Scott Butler, who's over professional standards and our accreditation manager. So I'm delighted that they're here with me. I will say, I guess a little different than maybe some of the other agencies. What I have come to know, among other things, about the police department is that we have been able to live within our means. And what I've done is just really stick to a very, when I say base budget, that's pretty much what we have done. We do allow for any increases that we anticipate, such as medical expenses, 2% inflation, which I think is across the board. But it's been a delight working with Michael over here. He's been very helpful with this new process and making sure that we get everything in order that we feel like we need. I'm not really sure the order of slides that he has, but we have tweaked our mission. The mission statement that we had before was pretty long, and I've always felt like you should be able to say your mission statement on an elevator ride. It should be quick, it should be representative of what we do, and so that's what we have here.
And that's a 2-story building,
And
too.
that's right, it should be quick, and you should be able to do it, should fit on the back of a business card, and this one does. To provide professional police services in partnership with the community to ensure a safer Franklin and enhance the quality of life. And I think that really gets to the fact that we are a very community-based agency. That's what we strive for, that's what we're known for, and that's what we will continue to do. You know what we do. We enforce the laws, we direct traffic, we apprehend the bad guys, we enforce city ordinances, traffic laws, provide traffic control in the streets, and for our city schools, we provide crime prevention information to a lot of groups across the community, and we enjoy doing that. Our organizational chart, that was recently revisited by you, and we appreciate the fact that you saw that what we were efforting was to flatten the organization and make it much more transparent and easily recognizable as to who we are and what we do. And it's very straightforward. Admin is certainly my direct reports. I have 8 direct reports. And that's the things, those are the various functions that serve the entire department. Professional standards, training, research and development, public affairs, and fiscal affairs. And then we have the field ops, which are the uniforms out. That's the most visible form of the not only the city of Franklin, but also the Franklin Police Department. And then, of course, our backup units, which is the criminal investigations, the 911 center, and support services. Now, the organizational chart in this budget will clearly show, I hope, what our line of business is. And that's what we've tried to put together here, that you could look at it and say, okay, I see what they're doing. Now, this base budget request, again, I'm not, oh, he's on it. Thank you. You will notice.
Deputy.
Yeah, that's right. We'll deputize him. 2013 and 2014, you can see that we haven't, there's no breakout there. And what I found was that the budget for the police department was just like this huge mass. And when I tried to sort it out, it was difficult for me to do. So what I did with Michael's help was try to break it out so that the deputy chiefs had some ownership and they had some accountability, and I was going to hold them accountable for what they spent and what they needed. And so when there was a training request or travel request or uniforms or whatever, we said, well, what's in your budget? Let's see what you did last year, and then let's move forward. Now, this is the first year that we're doing this, and we have done a breakout. The majority of the money is still sort of locked into admin, which is me, because we want to see how it needs to flow. But a lot of it is broken out based on history and then the number of personnel that the 2 deputy chiefs have. You know, I've eliminated the 3rd deputy chief. We didn't need it. That just didn't make sense to me. So this will act as formulating our infrastructure. And then next year, I have a better look back to see what we did spend and did we anticipate it correctly. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Who spent
So-
what and when?
Yeah, right.
What department?
So clearly, in looking at this, you can see that we've tried to design much more transparent management flow and a better understanding of what we do and what our available resources are. That's been kind of a tough sell for me, but I think we're there now, and certainly my management team is they're on board with it. Again, the base budget request, personnel and operations. I'm kind of tight, so and I think I should be. But you can see we're holding the line pretty close here, and we intend to do that next year. It's only a slight increase. As we move forward, certainly looking at lower estimate for fuel costs. I hope gas stays cheap like everybody else does. And then a reduction in our lease payments for vehicles and also some 911 equipment that we have, some dispatch equipment. Now, I do have 13 requests for program enhancements, and break those out 3 ways. Capital renewal and replacement, it's vehicles and maintenance. You got to have cars to get them from point A to point B. We're not any different than the fire department, except our vehicle's a little bit cheaper. Those fire trucks are expensive. But certainly we have looked at our fleet. We've picked out the oldest and the highest mileage, the ones that we're really having to do a lot of maintenance on, spend a lot of money on, and those are the ones that we're requesting to replace. A couple of unmarked vehicles, a new vehicle for one of our police dogs, our canine, and then a couple of admin vehicles. The second area is personnel and operations, and what that boils down, again, is a replacement for one of our canines that's starting to age. Axel is his name, and he's starting to show just a little bit of wear and tear. And to maintain his quality of life, we don't like to keep him any longer than they need to be out on the street. And we have some reclassifications on some personnel that's itemized within this packet. And then finally, technology enhancement. And those have to do with some in-car cameras, some communication headsets for our SWAT team. They have brand-new helmets that we got with a grant. But what they wear inside the helmets to communicate back and forth to one another and to dispatch and to officers in the field doesn't really tie in with that helmet. It doesn't keep out the background noise. These are much better communication headsets, and we'd like you to take a look at those. And then also the request for body cameras, which is certainly out there for a lot of cities and counties, and law enforcement agencies are looking at those, and we submit that for your review and feedback to us.
Cover the number of body cameras.
110.
So
Those
we
are for the
currently have
uniforms.
none.
That covers every uniformed police officer.
It does.
I mean, this has a lot of policy implications, obviously. So
I-
this isn't something we would do lightly, but it's something we've identified and something that is a current issue in policing.
Do you
And
think we need it for the safety of our officers?
well, we also need to look at it, though, in terms of how it affects our interaction with the public. We often come into situations in people's homes that can be very difficult. And to have that filmed and to have that available for the media and the public to review is something we really need to be mindful of. So if we go down this path, and a number of departments are doing the same thing we're doing in terms of looking at it, thinking about it, we're going to need to develop some real strong policy guidance about when that camera's on, when it's appropriate for that to go off, or be turned off because of the nature of the interaction with a citizen, with a child, with someone in their private residence. So there's a lot to this. Well, I appreciate Chief and her team looking at it and developing the cost implications. They're also doing a lot of thinking around the policy and operational implications of having that. We do currently have the ability for digital audio recording of all of our folks. They have that capability now. So that's something we need to make sure we're using in appropriate situations as well. But this is obviously a higher step in terms of being able to see and understand everything that happens. It also does provide a certain protection to our folks that they acted properly in a situation when you might be accused otherwise.
Exactly.
So it is a lot of facets to it, and I applaud the chief for putting it in there and for giving us something to think about as we move forward.
Well, let me, rather than look, how much are the 110?
Well, if you look at the last enhancement, it's number 13.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna spend about $400,000 to do this.
Yeah, it's almost $500,000, and we
It's almost
went pretty
$500,000.
we went pretty conservative on this. It's number 13 of 13.
Yes.
And it also does not include maintenance agreement, which we understand that our IT will handle that, but it will require hiring someone full-time just to handle the public records request, we feel. We're anticipating that.
The maintenance agreement would be, is that a line item then that would be a cost to the IT department?
We tend to centralize those costs within IT,
Okay.
but it would be something we would have to absorb overall as a city.
Because unless, I don't want, but this is not a negative. If it is a cost to the camera and it is a cost to the department, put the police department in, that you guys show it up on here. I mean, it's not, it's, I find when I sit down and watch TV today, now, and over the last several months, I don't think there's anything probably more important in the police department than the police department's ability to protect their reputation and what has happened. So you got $407,000 in here. I'm not going to say very little about those cameras and what I think they will do, because I think it protects you, I think it protects us as aldermen, and I think it protects the city.
The training for these cameras, is that part of the package, or will that be part of the package?
Yes, ma'am, and it will require a great deal of training
Right, 'cause-
and policy development. And Lieutenant Butler will tell you, as well as myself, because I've been talking to a lot of colleagues, And no one has the, pardon the pun, magic bullet on this. People are struggling with it across the state of Tennessee, across the country and other countries, United Kingdom and other, Canada, places like that. So, our concern, because I feel like Franklin's a very special place. And it's not just because it's my hometown, it just is. And so we realize that there are privacy issues. And I am very protective of victims of crime and children and our elders. And I want to make sure that anyone who's in one of these videos, that we know how to handle that very carefully before people request copies of it, and it goes out. So, I want you to know that I'm extremely mindful of all of this, and I tend to I opt on the side of protecting the innocent more than anything else. And that could very well be my personnel as well.
Yeah.
So we are certainly studying this a great deal. There aren't a lot of places to go because I think everybody's waiting for somebody else to do it. And somebody is waiting for somebody else's policy to be challenged in court. They're waiting. Everybody's perched and waiting. I don't mind going first, but I want to make sure we've got our act together. Ongoing costs, that's another issue. And also, we have a reputation of being very approachable. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want somebody not to come up to me and tell me something because they know I'm wearing a camera.
Oh, that's true.
So, that's another thing. We got a lot of public relations to do with this as well. And that's important to me, what our people feel, the people we serve, how they feel about it. So, we'll monitor this very closely.
Okay.
So that's pretty much, that's our budget.
So you've already hired new people.
I have 10 new police officers in training.
And that was in this current budget?
Yes, ma'am. They were vacancies.
Okay.
These were not new positions.
So we filled 10 vacancies in the last
Plus.
8 months since I've been here.
8 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief hasn't wasted any time. We've
No.
done a number of promotions into Master Patrol, which is a new position we created in this year's budget, or upgraded in this year's budget. Detectives, sergeants, lieutenants. We even hired a deputy chief. So we've been busy. And she's been busy getting a team established and getting people out of temporary assignments and into permanent places, and that's been, I think, very healthy for the department, for the service we provide.
Could you, in 10 seconds or less, give me the ranks, chief, down?
In our sworn positions, we have police officers, we have sergeants. I should mention, with the police officers, we have master patrol officers, which we have 12. They train new officers in the field. So when you have officers who graduate from the classroom portion of being a police officer, they are assigned with a master patrol officer who is a senior, tenured, well-trained, someone with a great deal of experience in the field.
Well, that's not exactly what I
Okay.
mean. I don't need that detail.
Okay.
I can't remember that.
Okay,
I
police
don't know
officer,
whether to call you
he's a lieutenant.
lieutenant. I don't know
Work
the
down
difference
from yourself,
between the
Chief.
lieutenant.
All right.
and
Do it the other
senior.
way.
Chief,
Okay.
we're PFCs here.
No, you're more than that.
Striving to be full.
Okay. Chief of police,
You've got a chart in your
yeah, it's,
budget. It might be a good place
Yeah,
to
there's
follow
a-
along.
Page 7 of your
Page
detailed
7 of
budget.
this
there is
detailed
a
packet.
strength report in
Not
here.
there. Look on the larger, the more detailed budget,
Well,
page 7.
right there.
Not that packet, that one, yeah. Go to page 7, and you'll see
Oh, okay.
sworn
Yes,
and
police,
civilian.
police chief, deputy chief, lieutenants, sergeant, police officer.
We don't have an assistant chief
Lieutenant,
anymore.
sergeant, police officer.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So police, assistant chief, police deputy.
We don't have assistant chiefs.
You don't have an assistant chief?
No, ma'am.
All right. So we've got you are the chief,
Yes, ma'am.
you are the deputy.
2 deputy chiefs.
We have you're a lieutenant. All right. And what are you?
He's the deputy chief.
You're a deputy. So we have 2 deputies.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and then the sergeants are underneath that,
Yes, ma'am.
and then everybody else is a police
No,
officer.
that's patrol.
Detectives and master
Well,
patrol.
yes, they are police officers,
Yeah.
and then, but some are assigned as detectives and some are master patrol. The
Okay.
rest are
Because I
patrol.
don't want to offend anybody by calling them the wrong title, but I don't know what to call them.
Just talk about.
Well, that's Sergeant Young sitting in the middle over there.
He's an honorary sergeant.
Thank you.
Honorary sergeant.
He's getting measured for his uniform tomorrow morning.
I would say that you all are so well thought of, and we know that you support us a great deal. They're not going to be offended.
Maybe an orange cake would help.
Oh, yeah.
You do the police cars on the state bid, do you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I mean, yes, sir.
Because I noticed you're specifically going to the Dodge Chargers.
That's from the state bid. And because we can cannibalize the ones we take out of service, we have some, we can retrofit radios and MDTs, and so, again, we're being mindful, and we're like American pickers, we're salvaging from one car to the other.
The last few years, the Chargers had the lowest base price of
Do
the
you-
of the options.
They look good, too.
Do you
Oh,
go?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, they do. Do you go six-cylinder or Hemi?
6.
Six?
My grandson.
The Hemis
wants
are
a
very
police
powerful.
car.
I like to
And
call
that's a
them
concern.
her-ease.
Reason I ask it, and I smile, a year or two ago, we were given the opportunity to go to the, I guess, the Chrysler pursuit vehicle thing, and we were able to test drive the Dodge Charger, the Challenger, the six-cylinder, the Hemi, and both of those, and we did that up at Gladeville, up at that racetrack up there, and that was, those were very, very nice vehicles that they had up there for us to test drive. So,
You enjoyed that.
that is as much as anything around lately.
Now, where are the?
We were able to chase the bad guy.
Where are the 911? Is that county? Is that,
No, that's us.
where, are they on this list?
Under non-sworn, I'm not sure what you're
What do you
looking
call
at.
it? Communication? Oh, okay. That would be your 911 folks.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And they handle all dispatch,
Okay.
police, fire.
I think that's what I was looking for, dispatch. You don't use that term anymore.
And
No,
we are
ma'am.
communication
Communications officers, and we have a lieutenant that's over communications. We've managed to be able to get those vacancies filled. We just now have someone who's resigned to take another job, but when I came to work here, we had 6 vacancies. Yeah, it was critical.
You've done
And
well.
one of the things I want to compliment our team on, we had a number of sworn personnel in police and I think a couple in fire.
2 firefighters.
That helped us cover dispatch during that time because we had the existing people that were there working extensive overtime, not getting days off, and Chief and her team said that's not acceptable. We gotta give them time off so they're fresh and do a good job. And we had folks who had experience to do dispatch step up and take up that role on a temporary basis till we could get these vacancies filled. So there were some
Yeah.
really good team effort by folks to help us out in that situation.
We presented them back a couple of months ago with a chief's coin, which is not given out very often, but it's highly desirable and thought greatly of. And so, including the 2 firefighters, we gave them one as well and recognized them. We were very appreciative, and it was, you know, officer safety is job one for me and for all of us. And so, not to have enough coverage and not to have people who are alert, answering the 911 call and dispatching and doing the status checks on the officers who are out on high-profile calls. You need the best and the brightest in there. And so when I went to them and said, look, we've got a dilemma here and I need your help, they said, sure, we'll do it. They stepped up. So I was very proud of that.
Who does the police academy now?
My training unit does the basic
The
part as far as, the Citizens
no, I'm
Police
sorry,
Academy.
The Citizens Police Academy.
Yes, we do.
Oh.
And that comes out of my community office and public affairs.
Okay.
Who's heading that up?
It's Sergeant Charlie Warner.
He's a
We've got
press.
one coming up in the spring.
I smile when I say this. when I went through, Chris did it, and that was as enjoyable, I guess 12 weeks, was it 12 weeks?
It was,
I think I went through the
10.
maybe 10.
maybe it was 8 or 10. at
Yeah,
that
I
time.
went through about the third one,
Yeah.
and.
It's a
and
really good
If there's
program.
anything that I remember, I still remember that police academy, the Citizens Police Academy that we went through.
I don't think we have as much fun putting it
That
on
was
as
a very
you do going
enlightening
through
8
it.
or 10 weeks.
I'll tell you an ironic thing about that. I started the Citizens Police Academy at the Metro Nashville Police Department, and I knew Chief Jackie Moore from, obviously from accreditation and from various programs. And so he called me one day and he said, "We are thinking about starting that up at the Franklin Police Department. Could I borrow, some of your information?" So I said, "Sure." So I sent him one of our manuals and the training agenda, and then one of our T-shirts that we give to the graduates, and one of our pins and everything. And then he invited me to the first graduation. So I came up to the Franklin Police Department's first Citizens Police Academy graduation, not knowing that someday I'd be sitting here. So things are work for a reason, I think.
Well, you all do a great job, and we're very
You do,
appreciative.
and we thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you are held in such high esteem. I
Yeah.
saw Chief Joe Casey here at your,
Oh, love him. Swearing in.
inauguration, or whatever you want to call it, installation, or,
Yeah. We're gonna have to make Clyde an honorary policeman. He done drove the car, he done
Oh,
went to the
Hey,
academy.
I'm for that. Well,
If you haven't done it, the academy's a great
Oh, yeah.
experience. It's
I
good.
thank you again very much for all the support that we receive from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and from our city manager and city staff. We're blessed, and we know that, and we don't take it for granted. We feel extremely fortunate, so thank you very much.
Likewise, we feel
Thank you.
blessed.
You know, Chief, if everyone, or a lot of people went to that police academy, they would understand what a traffic stop is and why the precautions, why you do what you do, the backup that you have to have when you have that. I drive by and I see maybe the fact that it doesn't look like a Desperado in the car. It probably isn't now. But until you got up there beside the car or whatever it was and got them stopped, you didn't know that. And it was a very enlightening experience for the 8 weeks or 10 weeks that we went through. And Chris made that very, very entertaining and enjoyable as we went through those 10 nights or whatever it was that we went. Because I think it was more than 8 weeks. I think we probably did about 10 on that. So.
It may have felt like 12.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It does dispel a lot of myths. We explain why we do things. We sort of kick open the kitchen door and invite you to the kitchen table and explain what we do. And also make some pretty good lasting friends in doing that. But I'd like to really invite people who might be viewing this to look at our website. We will have the dates out there and application process for a spring Citizens Police Academy coming up. And we invite our citizens to apply and join us. We'd appreciate that.
There is one other thing in your packet related to police, it's the drug fund.
Yes.
Just might want to touch on that real
Okay.
quick.
Yes.
Um,
This is, again, a very level, straightforward presentation that you have in your packet. We have not touched it. We're not going to make any changes to it right now. We are going to do a very serious review, especially Deputy Chief Polly Castro, who has the narcotics and vice team working for him. We see a couple of things here that we might revisit. But again, you will see that it's just blocked in and moved forward for now. We've not done anything to it. Now, I know that you're probably aware that this is a very important fund. It's totally monitored and mandated and overseen by, it's covered under TCA. So it's a very serious situation when a department takes on a drug fund. And there are only very limited legitimate expenditures that we can use this money for. And trust me, I treat it like the Bible when I read this. It's like the Ten Commandments. You don't deviate from it one bit. So we're going to continue to monitor this, and when we come back next year, you may see a few differences and things that we think we can pull back into our budget and leave the integrity and levelness to these expenditures and this fund. Because I have a lot of experience with this. I had a great deal of experience with this at Metro, and we were extremely careful with it. And again, I said no to a lot of requests because you have to, and I don't mind doing it. And he feels the same way.
Great.
Amen.
Amen.
Sounds like the gospel.
Drug fund would be so related.
The gospel according to the drug fund. No, it is serious. We're lucky to have it. It will pay for a lot of things as far as training. We have some new efforts that we're involved in, and so it's something we can use this for, but that's all.
Yeah.
You have any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Chief.
Very good
Guys,
presentation.
thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We got through on time.
And again, welcome back.
Good to be back. Good to be home.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Lieutenant.
Police.
Lieutenant,
Just call it the police.
all right,
Facilities,
Is that you?
facilities.
one more.
All right, we're gonna be done here in a bit here. How much tape we have left?
We're
You've got 3 minutes.
we have a few minutes. We can get the facilities tax presentation up on the screen. This will be brief. What we wanted to do, like I said, with every single budget that you have in front of you, you will have a small PowerPoint, because we think it's important to show, and as importantly, not just for you, the policymakers, but the taxpayers at home. This is going to be on Franklin TV, and there's a reason for that, so that we can show what these funds do, as well as having them on Granicus so that they can pull up the PowerPoints. The facilities tax is a special revenue fund set forth by special act of the Tennessee General Assembly in 1987. And it collects a privilege tax on new development to provide, or to make sure that new development basically pays, not per se for itself, but certainly that there is an offset for the cost of that growth to the city. Taxes raised through the facilities tax can be spent on only police, fire, sanitation, and parks and recreation services. They can be spent on those expenditures related to the growth, meaning that new equipment and infrastructure can be funded out of the facilities tax, but the replacement of existing equipment cannot. If you look at the second slide, or your detailed information, what we have done right now, and this will make some sense now that you've gone through for the largest departments. We are forecasting $2.5 million in revenues. This is a conservative figure, but more in line with historical averages. And it's based solely upon when the development actually occurs. We know there's large development projects out there. It's a question of when it comes in. So what we've done for the 3-year sort of, time span looking out is basically to forecast $2.5 million a year. Some years would be a little less, some years will be a little more. On the expense side of the equation, the only expenses that 2016 base budget are those related to stations 7 and 8. You have heard tonight, and this afternoon going into tonight, that there are numerous requests for the facilities tax. We, in our sort of back of the envelope right now, have totaled those up to be about $1.5 million. So if everything that could be eligible for a facilities tax appropriation that you heard tonight in the program enhancement requests, you'd add an additional $1.5 million to that figure shown in the base budget. That, of course, will come back to you in full recommendation as part of the full budget via the city administrator in early May. That's the facilities tax in addition.
How do we get to that tax? I'm a developer. How's it set?
When
What is
you
the-
come in to pull your permits for grading, for construction, whatever, you pay the facilities tax. And that's why it's.
Based on what? What
So
is?
much per square
Per
foot.
square foot.
Okay, that's what I need to know.
And that's why the timing is so random, is because you could have a project going on, but because of delays going through our process or delays in financing, a variety of things. The permit may be pulled in July instead of April. Well, in that case, we're going to come up short in this fiscal year, but it's going to happen in the next fiscal year. But in the long run, the development that's going to occur is going to produce a certain amount of tax. And in the past, it's been calculated based on future projects and what would be needed to fund those.
What is that square feet cost per
when
square?
it-
I'd have to defer
Okay.
to Vernon to tell me
But
the
whenever-
exact
That's what I was trying to
facilities
get to.
tax, cost per square foot.
Residential is less than,
Is,
Yeah,
okay.
I think, I want to say it's like, is it 77, I thought, was the latest. And I may be behind the curve. We'll get you that number.
Okay, yeah, I just have it.
Yeah, I think that there's a maximum allowed, we're not quite to the maximum.
There's a maximum
It's
of
around
$1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are at something not quite there. But there was some legislation that was passed a few
Right.
years back that confounded the process. And based on the legislation, there was an Attorney General opinion that said you can't raise it, even if you have already authorization to do more. Then there was a second Attorney General opinion that said, oh yeah, you can. You can go up to your limit, but you can't raise your limit.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the limit that we have is $1, as I understand it. And we're not quite there yet, but we haven't undertaken the increase to get up to that. That's why there's been some concern over the past 6 or 7 years when we built the police headquarters. A lot of the money was drained out of this fund to help pay for the expansion portion. We built a headquarters that was much larger than what we had before, and the part that was additional was eligible to be paid for from facilities tax, as Michael described in the mission of what the funds are for. And that put us in a deficit for a few years until the taxes came in and we caught up. Now the fund has grown, as you can see, starting this year, I think we had, $5 million in the fund to begin with, and the expenses of Station 8 will come out of there, and the expenses for Station 7 will eventually come out of there.
That includes the
Yeah.
temporary station
As
costs that
well.
we are incurring. We're charging those to facilities tax as well.
But those numbers have rebounded nicely because of the fairly intense development that we've had lately. We've had, such a strong spurt.
When people ask for, that they not have to pay these facilities tax, are there ever any reasons, are there good reasons why we would?
Well, there are some
Providing
statutory exemptions, as I understand it. The state's exempt, I believe, and I think the county is on some things.
But we don't,
What?
But we don't waive these fees.
yeah, this isn't, I think you're thinking of where we have offsets sometimes on a road impact fee because somebody's doing a road improvement on our behalf, or a water and sewer, they can get an offset or something because of enhancements they're doing in the system that the city would otherwise do at some point. That's very different. The facilities tax is straight up paid for them as they pull a permit. We don't do any deals on it, they just pay it.
That's schools and everything?
well, we don't do school.
We don't do schools. The county has a facilities tax.
There's a separate county facilities
For
tax.
schools, yes.
Franklin Special do their own.
Okay, but nothing that we would bill.
We don't waive facilities taxes.
All right,
That just isn't, that just isn't in part of the process.
And that's the reason that you want, that's the reason whenever you have these worthy projects come through, I'm not picking on any particular project, and each worthy project that comes through wants some reduction in some fee someplace. Say the same thing each time. Be very careful about what we waive, because not only have we reduced something, but we've also set a precedent for somewhere else along down the line.
And if I may, having come here from a city that had no impact fees, but a $2.25 tax rate,
Yeah.
if you want to maintain a 40-cent tax rate, you need to collect the impact fees on the front end, because that's what pays for the fire stations and the police stations and the garbage trucks that are $325,000 each. If you did not have the impact fees where growth paid for some of those capital expenses, that would be embedded in your tax rate, and your tax rate would be $1.75.
All right, but there would be certain times when you were talking about if somebody did something that benefited the city.
Those are different than facilities taxes. That is a separate animal, where we have the road impact fee set up, and we have tap and access fees related to water and sewer that help pay for the capacity that's developed over time, some of which for future growth, that they come in and pay a share of those costs when they come onto the system for water and sewer, and they pay an impact cost related to roads, both what's there and what will be in the future for major arterial roads only. That's the basis of those fees. So there's a whole group, but we usually have the discussion around the impact fees and the water and sewer component, not facilities tax. That happens at a permit level, and we don't normally have a discussion around those.
If I may, the way I think about it is if a developer is spending money that we would have otherwise had to spend, then they get an offset.
Yeah, well, that's what
I've
I'm
yet to
talking
have a developer come and say they want to build a police station for us.
Or a fire station.
Or a fire station.
That's right.
Now, they may build a road to their project.
They might add lanes to an existing road or do something that helps us with capacity, or something that we would ultimately do in the build-out of the city, and that's where we talk about the potential of offsets, because they're paying for something we would have eventually.
And the people out there on Cool Springs on Windcross that put that light in, we gave them half, didn't we?
Some of us on the board did.
Collectively, that's what the board decided, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But that was road impact, not facilities.
That was road impact, yeah.
Make sure we get that correct.
Yeah, I want to add to it. I
The will of
certainly
the
do.
board was the decision.
That's what we have in terms of the presentations. We do have the group of monthly reports that we usually provide you with.
Anything you want to provide specific?
Anything we want to highlight?
Nothing specific. The November sales tax was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
You've seen that. I had hoped that we today would receive information on the December collections, but it did not come in.
Wonder what happened.
It's after the holidays. The state is a day or two slow getting it to us.
No.
November?
What
In
happened
November, it's really hard to say. Thanksgiving was late, and that sometimes affects it. Sometimes the big sales in October bring sales forward. It's really hard to know. That's why when we're looking at these, we're looking at 3-month averages and year-to-date figures that are blended over several months.
You'd had a string of about 5 months before that were remarkably strong.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
I think my personal opinion is the late Thanksgiving had something to do with it. That Monday after Thanksgiving was December 1st.
Yeah.
And I just have a inkling that some reporting may have bleeded into December as opposed to November because of how late that Thanksgiving was. But we'll see when we get the December numbers, we'll have a better sense.
Is there any conversation at the state level with the gas hedging? Diesel?
No, the state is still not doing it. The Metro is doing it.
We do it with
Well, the
Metro.
Metro, okay, so is there, because I think someone at the Metro had brought it up,
Well,
as taxpayers are really, it was a negative thing.
well, it's a very negative thing.
That we are-
Our bill for this last month was $20,000 to pay for that hedge, where we've gotten accustomed to collecting $8,000 or $10,000 a month. I would still point out to you, though, that means if it's costing us $20,000 for our hedge, that we're probably saving 30 or 40 at the pump. So I think of it very much as a shock absorber in a car. I mean, it takes out some of the peaks and the valleys. It's not going to ever be a great gain or a great loss. It just helps to mollify.
Maybe
some
come
of
back
the
in sales
But
tax.
collectively, over 5 years,
Come
we
back.
have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing the hedging. So it's swung back collectively in the budget, we're saving over what we anticipated. Now, are we getting the very lowest possible? No, because we hedged. But overall, we benefited from it.
But we
So what
had
percentage do we hedge? Half?
right about 60%.
60%?
Right about 60%. The one thing I would tell you is that we've gone ahead and hedged for the next fiscal year, at least on the diesel side, because when it went down below $50 a barrel, diesel price went down to $1.70. So we locked in
Oh, you
the
put
next
that.
year. So, you know, because we locked in this year, last year, you know, we're underwater, and will be for this year. But next year, if the price goes back up, we're gonna make it all back. Again,
And it
It's-
will.
it's an
Every
insurance
year.
policy,
You know
and
it
you've gotta think about it
Sure
that
is
way.
nice filling up for $25 instead of 50.
Well, you can go to the mall and spend more money, right?
It's true, and we're hoping to see that in some of these
I
labor
think we
figures.
will.
Yeah. Okay, that's all.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move that
I
we
will
adjourn.
second that.
Proper motion second, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Thank
we're-
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.